So, what even is transportation justice? To answer that question, first, I think we need to talk about justice. It's a term that has been chronically misunderstood and misrepresented, although this isn't really any fault of its own. In the real world, it's a lot easier to see and define the lack of justice or injustice than it is to recognize justice taking place. In her 1990 book, Justice and the Politics of Difference, Iris Marianne Young writes that justice should refer not only to distribution, but also to the institutional conditions necessary for the development and exercise of individual capacities in collective communication and cooperation. People should be able to exist without oppressive forces dominating and casting a shadow over their lives. If a state is unable to facilitate such a society, then it is difficult to say that the state is a just one. So, if this is justice, then how is it related to transportation? Again, what even is transportation justice? Transportation justice describes a normative condition in which no person or group is disadvantaged by a lack of access to the opportunities that they need to lead a meaningful and dignified life. There are parts of Burlington that provide safe access and use for many of its residents. The speed limit is 25 miles per hour, and it is 20 in the downtown area. Many of the streets are quite narrow, and there are bike lanes all over the city. My freshman year of college, I had a job at Target. It wasn't very far away from where I lived on campus at the time, but my commute there always managed to be interesting. Usually, I'd try to take the bus. It was easier and quite frankly safer than walking there. But the schedule could be a little bit finicky. In theory, it was routine, but more often than not, the buses would not arrive when they said that they were going to, or not arrive at all, which, as you can imagine, is very stressful if you're trying to get to work. There's an app that you can use to track the bus, and when it works, it's amazing. It does a really good job of showing you where the bus is and when it's going to get to you. But when it doesn't work, it's incredibly annoying. Like, it'll say a bus is coming, and then no bus will arrive. And you're at the bus stop like, I'm trying to get to work, you know? It's not a great situation to find yourself in. So, when I was working at Target, more often than not, I would find myself walking there from UVM campus. This commute was anxiety-inducing and incredibly unpleasant. In fact, these experiences are really what got me into thinking about car dependency in America. Luckily, people in my life started to bring their cars up to college. I too got my own eventually, but for many, this is not an option. They're prohibitively expensive and very costly to maintain. But at the same time, many of the necessities for life are located outside of the walkable parts of Burlington. When we began discussing transportation justice in class this year, I really began to reflect on my time as a cashier at Target. Because I didn't have a car, I was at a significant disadvantage, and really my commute had no dignity. Anyone who's ever walked alongside a multi-lane highway or a strode before knows that it's an incredibly humbling experience. The power of your two legs simply cannot compare to that of an engine. For the sake of this video, and to highlight the injustices within transportation in Burlington and in South Burlington a little bit, I decided to document what the journey to University Mall would look like without a car. I'm sure that many already know what this entails, and maybe have done it themselves. But still, I believe it is a poignant example of active transportation injustices within our community. There are a couple of plazas in Burlington that are similar to University Mall. There's the Gateway Shopping Center, which has Shaw's, and then Price Chopper across the street on Shelburne Road. And then there's the New North End, Hannaford's. Each of these is large and mostly dedicated to parking. But I ended up choosing University Mall because it is the one that is closest to me. It has the most amenities, and I usually shop there. I've found that Trader Joe's has the cheapest groceries, and what I can't get there, I can get at Hannaford's. My girlfriend Fiona also joined me for the trek, which made it quite a bit easier. Let's get started. We left my house in the Old North End, originally hoping to catch the 9 and then get on the 11. But unfortunately, as we were walking, our bus passed us by.
That's totally our bus.
Well, we missed the bus, and it would be another hour before the next bus comes, so we decided just to walk to Target. Initially, the walk was very pleasant. As I discussed earlier, the Old North End of Burlington generally has narrow streets and wide sidewalks. You wouldn't be able to tell right now, but there is also quite a bit of greenery. Eventually, though, we started having to cross wider streets. There were significantly more cars than before, and all of them seemed to be going much faster, even though the speed limit had not changed. If it wasn't winter, you would notice that the greenery that dominated the scenery at the beginning of our walk has been overtaken by asphalt and concrete. Right now, though, nothing compares to the snow white on the ground and the bleak gray skies above. While the sidewalks are still wide, any semblance of equality between the pedestrian and the car has been eliminated here. There's no fooling anyone anymore. Around these parts, the automobile reigns supreme. About a mile into our walk, we reached the University Heights bus stop, where, once again, we missed a bus. This stop, and its counterpart on the other side of the street, are notable exceptions among Burlington bus stops. The brick shelter, the lights, and sadly even the maps are unique in a city where every other transit stop is simply a sign. I may be incorrect, but besides the downtown transit center, this is the only stop with details about routes, schedules, and even directions. The 2023 study found that in the state of Vermont, low-income and BIPOC individuals were less likely to own a personal vehicle and more likely to rely on public transportation. The same study also found evidence suggesting that in Vermont, people who relied on public transit have less access to healthy food, are more likely to go hungry, have higher reported rates of asthma, and are less likely to have access to a physician. While the study was mostly focused on the rural parts of Vermont, it found that this is even true in Chittenden County, which has the most robust transit system in the state and is where we are right now. Before we move onwards in our journey, I want to take a few seconds to discuss this. These statistics serve as an obvious example of transportation injustice, and the U Heights bus stop that we just passed exemplifies the inequity of quality transit experiences in Burlington. The bus stop is primarily used by UVM students, who, in my experience, are less likely to be low income and more likely to have access to their own personal vehicles. I'm not saying that UVM should not have a high quality bus stop. I think it's great for freshmen and sophomores. In fact, I used it almost daily when I lived on campus. But I am saying it's bad that it's the only one like it. Infrastructure like this makes using public transportation more comfortable and reduces the friction involved with the experience, which means that more people are likely to use it. The shelter can protect you from precipitation while you wait, the information on the maps can tell you when the next bus is going to come, which is incredibly useful if you do not have a phone. And the lighting makes you feel safer at night. Again, I really want to emphasize that this is a great thing. I don't think that UVM shouldn't have this. It's more just a shame that people who would benefit from this more are not having access to it. Now we have reached the interesting part of the walk, and the most dangerous one. In 2021, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, 7,388 pedestrians died, and approximately 60,577 were injured in traffic crashes in the United States. Out of all the fatalities, 75% occurred in areas where the speed limit was 30 miles per hour or higher, and 62% occurred when traffic volumes exceeded 25,000 every day. Both are statistics met by the stretch of road. Essentially, it is not safe to be here if you are a pedestrian, and realistically, you probably were not meant to be. This stretch of road was designed for cars. Beep, 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 yeah. Now we've reached my favorite set of least favorite crosswalks in the whole entire world. I think it's really remarkable that somebody thought, oh, putting a crosswalk here is gonna change everything. This is a good idea. In all seriousness though, this stretch of road is exceptionally terrifying. I honestly don't have enough fingers to count every time I was almost hit here on my hands. These are not fond memories, and I was deeply regretting my decision to make this video and bring Fiona along with me as we walked towards these crossings. It felt as if they were staring me down. That deep, stomach-churning anxiety only something like this can produce was a reminder of my luck that eventually I was able to quit my job and go through the rest of my semester on the meager savings that I had. Next year, I got a job on campus, and then that summer I brought my car up to Burlington. Many are not able to quit this walk, and most of them also can't avoid it.
We made it to Target, and now we're trying to get some groceries, go grocery shopping at Trader Joe's. And they're quite close to each other. It's probably less than, might be just over 100 yards away. But we were trying to go along up through here, but the sidewalk just ended. So we're taking a little pit stop at this picnic table. We're just trying to formulate a game plan of how to get there.
According to David Harvey, urban rights and justice are mediated by the spatial organization of political powers. The parking lot could not be a clearer example of this. Automobiles hold political and capital weight. Therefore, they are given the right to use the land as they wish. On the other hand, the pedestrian does not hold the same power. As a result, they're pushed to the side, forced to weave their way through a maze of 2 and 3 ton vehicles moving about haphazardly. After about an hour and a half of walking, we made it to the grocery store, and then quickly got everything we needed in less than 15 minutes. Finally, we caught a bus that was headed to the downtown transit center, and from there we made it back to my apartment, concluding our journey. Let's return to our definition of transportation justice for a moment. Transportation justice describes a normative condition in which no person or group is disadvantaged by a lack of access to the opportunities they need to lead a meaningful and dignified life. If we are to use this definition when understanding transportation justice, then it is hard to say that there is transportation justice in Burlington. at least based on what we saw today. I do not want to paint it as some car-ridden hellhole though. There are parts of the city that are legitimately awe-inspiring for pedestrian safety and transportation equity. That being said, it is not distributed evenly. Equity and justice are two separate things after all. The downtown section of Main Street was recently fully redone, under the Great Streets Project. Battery Street also seems to be next on the chopping block. Both of these initiatives are focused on ensuring safety and accessibility for everybody. They hope to provide infrastructure that creates a comfortable environment in downtown Burlington. There is also a pedestrian bridge off of I-89 that South Burlington recently received grant money for. If this is built, it would honestly alleviate many of the issues discussed in the video today. However, we are a long ways away from that. It is also important to remember the writings of Iris Marion Young and know that justice cannot simply be distributional. This only serves to uphold the current status quo, as it subdues the oppressed instead of working to free them. There must be systemic changes made. Our next big hurdle, then, is that the state cannot be trusted to make the changes necessary for justice. Some things can be done, but the necessary large-scale reconstruction of society that is necessary for a just future must come from outside forces like you, or community organizations. Capitalism relies on differences, which are then categorized and assigned general values. This allows for profits and power to be generated, while also providing ample opportunity for oppression and injustice. In fact, it needs difference because it feeds on inequality. Without this, it is nothing. Because of that, Polito argues we cannot turn to the state and expect it to properly deal with issues of justice. So, it's up to us to do what we can. Next time you're behind the wheel, make sure you use your blinker. Go when you have the right of way, and drive at the speed limit. It is that fast for a reason. All of this will make pedestrians a little bit safer and help us get a little bit closer to justice.
Yes,